Like I said, the mining ratio right now is 1 to 6. For every 1 ounce of gold, they find 6 ounces of silver. And that's down from a 1 to 12, probably from when we last spoke, because the world has been in deficit on silver for the last 4 years. And so we're using up older stockpiles of silver to meet up the new demand. And at some point, this is going to explode. And it's going to be the biggest story ever. So in order to find financial gravity, I think this 1 to 1 gold to silver ratio, I think that's a very powerful rallying point that the silver community can really get its head around and get away from these dollar price targets when it's a manipulated game that we're playing in. Trump coming into office is this huge outlier, and it could be a biblical ending on January 20th when he gets into office.
Welcome to another RTD interview. Today I'm excited to have returning guest, Mr. Chris Duane, the founder of the Silver Shield Collection. And today he's joining us, and it's been a couple years. And as always, it's good to connect with like-minded individuals that realize the importance of sound money like never before. And he does a great job of educating as well as providing people actual physical solutions with silver. And so I don't want to waste any more time. Let me bring him on here. We have Mr. Chris Duane. How are you doing, my good friend?
Good to see you again, Mike.
Oh, man, it is good to connect with you. It has been quite some time since we've last connected. And of course, you've gone through a lot. The world's going through a lot. Everybody's going through a lot. But then again, we're still here, and thank God for that. But I wanted to reach out to you because I've noticed you've been very active on X and sharing a lot of things that the powers that be or the forces that are against humanity may not want people to realize. And so I want to continue to just shine light into the darkness in a sense, and give people a reminder as to what's really at stake here. And before we do all that, for those who might, I guess, be new to the channel or may not have ever heard of you before, give a little bit of who Chris Duane is and I guess your background real briefly, and then I'll get into some other things as well.
Yeah, my name is Chris Duane. I have a website called 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪. Every week I release 2 brand new mini mintage coins that are available for only 1 week only. And I've been doing this for over 13 years, and it's been a long road for me to bring this truth out there. But this is the biggest story out there. Silver manipulation is behind all the Goldman Ponzi schemes that are out there. And as soon as silver gets out of this manipulation, I think it's going to supernova into a hyperinflation where it's going to be the best performing metal, even relative to gold. And the last month or so, I've been pushing this idea of trying to find a valuation for silver that people can get their minds wrapped around, because right now we're stuck in a bankster dominated paradigm where they're using at least 400 paper contracts for every single ounce of silver on the COMEX to manipulate the price of silver down. They slam it every morning at 10 o'clock, and it's just blatant manipulation. But what I think is going to end up happening is that we're going to end up running out of physical silver, and that there's going to be a massive revaluation of silver that will push silver beyond even what gold does. So I give you an example. Gold is at an all-time high. I think it's at 2,700. It might be a little bit below that now. But when it was at its all-time high in 1980, it was $850. So gold is massively above its all-time high, and silver is yet to hit that. We're still eking around like $30 an ounce when it should be above 50, which was the all-time high. But when silver got to 50 in 1980 at an all-time high, there was only $1 trillion worth of federal debt out there. Now it's up to 35 trillion. 35 times $50 brings it up to $1,750 price target for gold or for silver. And it's not that far away from a gold to silver ratio of 1 to 1. And what I've been trying to do is get the silver community rallied around this single message, because I think if we can get a 1 to 1 gold to silver ratio as a logical settling point for a global jubilation. And the way I get to a 1 to 1 gold to silver ratio is that there is 6 times more gold above ground in vaults than there is physical silver. Silver is more plentiful in the Earth's crust, where the mining ratio is 1 to 6. So above ground, you got a 6 to 1 ratio, and below ground, you got a 1 to 6 ratio. Well, if you equal all things out and you're trying to find the true value of silver, silver should be worth as much as gold on a 1 to 1 basis. And silver has 10,000 industrial uses that gold doesn't have, which means that I think silver can actually go above where gold is right now. Now, this is a simple math situation of just ounces above ground and ounces below ground. And it brings it back to more of a realistic historical ratio, because most of the times in the past, all the ratios that have been between gold and silver reflect the mining ratio. Like I said, the mining ratio right now is 1 to 6. For every 1 ounce of gold, they find 6 ounces of silver, and that's down from a 1 to 12, probably from when we last spoke, because the world has been in deficit on silver for the last 4 years, and so we're using up older stockpiles of silver to meet up the new demand. And at some point, this is going to explode, and it's going to be the biggest story ever. So I'm keep pounding away at this. I've been at this for 13 years. I've obviously got a very thick skin for following physical silver as its main way out of this mess. And that's basically where I am right now.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And so we're going to get into some of the graphics that you put together that captures a variety of stories with some
Yeah.
very interesting headlines. And speaking of last time we spoke, let me grab it on the screen. It was like prior to the whole health situation that took place. And
Yep.
so if I look at my date here, it was actually 4 years ago. And we got about 2,700 or so people that tuned in to us. And I remember having some good back and forth with you. So it was a great time for sure. And so since that time frame, silver, I would say 2019 might have been like $21, $20, $19. Let me actually look. We've seen some very interesting momentum since then.
Yeah.
And as of the last, let me go back here. So just within the last year, it's been up. Okay, let me go back to our first time when we spoke. It was 17, 16, 17, $18. And
It's
within the
almost
last
double.
year, yeah, it's double, literally. Good point. And so literally something broke, something happened. There's a lot of momentum that has forced gold and silver both in an upward trajectory. And then, of course, recently, as I mentioned before we went live, within the last week, $20,000 in the Bitcoin space that has caught the world. I wouldn't say by surprise, but clearly that's an anomaly in a sense. But it lets me know that where the powers that be wants this asset class to go. I'm
More
sorry?
digital illusions of wealth. They want us to buy more digital illusions of wealth. So that's why the crypto space keeps running on, because that's where they want us to go. But I think when the everything bubble of the world, because every asset class is now at its all-time high, and we could blow even higher with Trump getting into office. But at some point, there is going to be a physical reckoning, and that physical reckoning is going to show up in gold and silver. There's a chart that I use a lot on Twitter, and my whole attack on Twitter is unlike anything anybody's ever done. I've basically merged together a lot of memes together, ideas, and put it into one single graphic. And then I go about the graphic talking about things that nobody's talking about, like the global generational debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme. The whole world is a Ponzi scheme. So in order to find financial gravity, I think this 1-to-1 gold to silver ratio, again, with 6 times more gold above ground than there is physical silver, and silver has 10,000 more industrial uses than gold does. I think that's a very powerful rallying point that the silver community can really get its head around and get away from these dollar price targets when it's a manipulated game that we're playing in.
Yeah. Now, as I'm looking at this, you've combined a lot of pictures here, and they're full of detail. And of course, for people who don't pay attention to the alternative space, they may say this is like a lot of conspiratorial or whatever. But once again, you're putting truth bombs together to create a bigger picture. Where at this current moment, especially after this whole health ordeal where world went to, we witnessed a lot of things that were considered conspiratorial actually be conspiratorial fact, if that's a word I can use. And so I see the Epstein situation here. And I see every picture is centered around the 1-to-1 gold to silver ratio. So literally, you're hanging your hat, you're betting the bank basically on the fact that 1-to-1 is in our future. Is that kind of what I'm getting from all these pictures?
Yeah. It to me, it's what Judgment Day would be like. If you read the back of the Bible, there comes a time where the world stops, and they talk about it. Everybody, all the precious gems and stuff will be thrown on the ground, and the kings will throw their golden crowns down. This, to me, is Judgment Day. Could be January 20th when Trump gets into office. They're talking about such massive change on January 20th. That could be Judgment Day. And there could be a financial reckoning on that day with all the stuff that they're doing. But I think whenever Judgment Day does come, we're not going to have a 1-to-86 gold to silver ratio. That doesn't make sense to me. That says that silver is way too undervalued relative to gold, especially when it has 10,000 industrial uses that gold doesn't have. Any claim that gold says we can be $2,700 and way above all-time highs, silver should be able to make all that same monetary argument, because silver's been more of a monetary metal than in history than gold has. Silver and plata, silver in the Romantic languages, money and silver mean the same thing. And we've gotten away from that with all these digital illusions of wealth that has created a global generational debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme that's going to collapse. Now, Trump coming into office is this huge outlier, and it could be a biblical ending on January 20th when he gets into office.
Interesting. And speaking of which, with the ideal price target of silver at a 1-to-1 ratio will put us at numbers that the world cannot even fathom.
Yeah.
And then what will the rest of the world look like? And that's the thing. This is Judgment Day. And from a monetary standpoint, in particular, in this subject matter here, what then does the world look like? That's some things that also will go along with these numbers that we're talking about, because we're pricing it in dollars still. And I believe that my motto is the Federal Reserve note will be your greatest liability of all time. So will we get back to a situation where people recognize gold and silver, because the average person don't have it? So
I think the market's going to force this change on us. I don't think this is going to be a voluntary thing. I think the market's going to force it upon us, because there's a chart that is called the Exter's pyramid. John Exter was a Federal Reserve banker, and he made this chart showing the liquidity event of the most illiquid assets out there being the largest markets, like derivatives, real estate, and then it gets down to like stocks, and then bonds, and then cash, then gold, and then at the very tip of it, which they don't put in there that often, is silver is the most at the tip of Exeter's pyramid. And when the world, this global generational debt, there it is, and then they put the little silver in the bottom too. Yeah. But when the world goes through this a global generational debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme collapse, everybody's going to rush down this pyramid into the more safest assets out there. Now, I know we talked about being bad on the dollar, but the dollar is probably the best of the currencies out there, and that it could end up being stronger going into this because of the relative weakness of all the other countries out there. Now, we also have this huge outlier called the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They just announced over this past week at their meeting that they're going to introduce a new currency with 40% backing of gold, and the rest of them backed with currencies. Now, the currencies that they're backing them with are just the same currencies as the United States, but they're backing it with gold. And in that same time frame, Vladimir Putin announced that the Russian central bank is now going to start stacking silver. So now we have a global central bank that has recognized silver as a monetary asset, and it's Russia. And Russia is pushing Brazil, Russia, India, and China, the BRICS countries, into buying more of it. So now China's going to be buying more, and India is going to be buying more silver. That brings on more pressure to the COMEX. And again, they're using 400 paper contracts to control each 1 ounce of physical silver. It's a huge Ponzi scheme, and it's going to come to an end. And when it does, I see silver going up dramatically, and it's going to overrun the shorts. There's 660 million ounces that they're short physical silver, which is almost over a year's worth of global silver population or production. And when that happens, when there's a run on the bank, I don't think the miners are going to still give physical silver for $30. They're going to probably strike and probably hold for even higher prices, further depleting the supply of physical silver out in the market at the time when there's most demand, when the shorts are getting overrun. So we're at a very tenuous point right now, above $30 silver, below $35 silver. But the real goal, and at the end of this, is a 1-to-1 gold to silver ratio, where the world can reset based on a pure bimetallic standard, and it's based in logic, with 6 ounces or 6 times more gold above ground than there is silver. And then the mining ratio is a 1-to-6, but it's a depleting mining ratio. We're actually running out of physical silver because we don't have high enough prices to bring on more silver production. I can see a world where the dollar goes up in value relative to all the other currencies out there, because with Trump coming in and all the stuff that he's doing, he could make America great again and make the dollar more desirable on a global basis. But I can also see that while the dollar's going up, silver is going to go up even more dramatically, even relative to gold. So I'm watching for this gold to silver ratio, which is now at a ridiculous 1-to-86 gold to silver ratio, which has no basis in reality whatsoever, other than the paper manipulation that they've been putting on for so long. And when that ends, it's going to watch the gold to silver ratio compress. And even if you're a gold lover, I recommend getting out of your gold now, getting 86 ounces of silver and waiting for the gold to silver ratio to collapse even to 40 or 30 or 20, and you can get 3, 4, 5 times more gold for your silver at that time point. I think it's going to go to a 1-to-1 gold to silver ratio. And even at a 1-to-1 gold to silver ratio, I still would want silver over gold because silver has more than 10,000 industrial uses that gold doesn't have. It just sits there in a vault and waiting for bad monetary events to happen. And when that happens, gold is the cash of all kings. Silver is going to be even more dramatic than that because it's going to have this huge weight lifted off of it, of the silver manipulation that's been going on for generations.
Man, very true there. And speaking of which, you brought up Donald Trump and the whole concept of making America great again. And so definitely he's done a good job of convincing people that something is possible. But yet I've yet to hear him mention actual practical things when it comes to our currency, because we can't have a great nation if our currency is trash. And so I love to remind people that as of right now, I have on the screen the purchasing power of the consumer dollar, and we're already down 98, 99, depending on how people want to measure it, since Woodrow Wilson. And so if Trump actually walks through, gets past the judgment day, as you mentioned, next year, and becomes the president again, I don't see him actually doing anything that will lead us towards a sound monetary foundation again, because everything is built on digits now, and even his cabinet he's forming now, there's a lot of questions about that. I don't see it being a intentional movement by this administration. And so you reference that it's the world will recognize as things come to a halt. The silver price itself will thrust itself into the spotlight, because I don't see our administration doing it. But what say you of, would it be done by our powers that be or not, or whatever?
I think it's going to be forced upon us. The market at some point is going to react to physical silver and all the demands that are meeting on it. Trump getting into office, he's going to have the Senate and the House and a stack full of executive orders to turn things around. Now, most of the stuff that I've heard has been more social stuff, like getting fluoride out of water, cutting Department of Education, asking for the generals that were in charge of the Afghani retreat to basically fire themselves before he gets into office. You're right. I haven't heard much going on about monetary things because we're dealing with, I think the federal budget now is like $6 trillion a year, and we're going into the hole, $1 trillion a year, and that the interest payments on all this debt is over $1 trillion. So we're headed toward a bankruptcy. But I honestly, who would you rather have in charge of a bankruptcy than the guy who's gone bankrupt 3 times? He's done very well with bankruptcy, and I think that he'll put America first when it comes to that. And that says to me that we're looking at a very strong dollar, and we can make the economy better again by cutting all these departments. They're talking about this Department of Government getting rid of a lot of waste inside the government. That's dollar positive in the short term. But you're right. We're dealing with a $35 trillion unforgivable debt out there. And that at some point, there's going to be an event. And to me, that would be a biblical event. It would be a world freezing up, a credit situation. And that's when you'll see what we're actually going to get. But we're sitting on the largest stockpiles of gold. Silver, we're in a very big mess with, because we've just depleted it and we haven't built up stockpiles of it. But that only leads for it to be a better performing asset than gold.
Very true. Very true. Now, as we draw towards the end, I'm curious, with your collection, clearly it's a very popular series of coins that you come out with every 2 days. And I know that they carry their value plus some. And so I've witnessed a lot of people within your community basically holding on to things for dear life, and that's just a fiat price appreciation because they're limited in mintage and things like that. They do a good job of carrying value. Plus, again, how many total rounds or whatever have you put into circulation, or what's your count, or do you keep count? Or
so I don't have an accurate count, but I think I've done over 600 different designs. So if you go on eBay and just type in Silver Shield, you can see a whole bunch of them there. And then as far as how many ounces, I think for the whole 13 years, we've probably done over 2.5 million ounces of physical silver in various forms. Not all of them are in the proof coins that I release on a weekly basis. We have bullion, we have bars. I cover the whole gambit. The whole purpose of even doing this was to get a private solution to what the governments have been. They run the silver business. They run the mints, the U.S. Mint, the British Mint, the Perth Mint. They're all government mints. So I came to the market with a private release of all these different things. And I touch on subjects that none of the government mints are going to touch on. They make pretty animals and flowers and historical things on their coins. But me, I'm in there talking about the Rothschilds and all the wars that they've provided, and Trump and all these other issues that go on them. And they go into these coins and they're only available for a week, and they gain instant collector's value because they're no longer in circulation. And then the people that buy them are watching the price of my coins go up faster than the price of physical silver because there's that numismatic value that's added onto it. So I think all told, the whole Silver Shield series is something that I wish the silver community responded to a little bit more instead of stacking government silver all the time.
And speaking of which, if people want to find out more, here's your X handle, Chris Duane, silvershieldcoins.com is where they can go to see that page we were at just a moment ago. So you're very active on X now. And of course, for those who don't know, that all your other socials have been unplugged, unfortunately, because of your truth that you share. And so you mentioned that Elon Musk has been more pro free speech, allowing people to let their voices be heard. So this is where people can find you if they want to connect and plugged in.
I used to have a YouTube channel with 173,000 subscribers, and I got nuked. But I got kicked off of Twitter, or it got kicked off of Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all the things during this. It was like a purge, and I'm feeling it on a firsthand basis, watching my business and all the work that I've done just go poof overnight. And the only one that I've been able to get back onto is Twitter, because Elon Musk bought Twitter. And I don't know, somehow my chat came back up, and I've been on it ever since. I have had the FBI visit me one time over a tweet that I probably shouldn't have done, but I know that I'm making a difference out there, and this is basically my last stand. So I put in all this effort into my Twitter thing, where I put these images together, which are putting together the memes and the ideas of what this, because it's a huge issue that we're dealing with. It's covering everything, and trying to frame it all into so that people can see that there's a way out of this. And to me, the way out of it is obviously telling the truth, and the truth would set us free. If we get truth into the silver market, silver's going to go crazy.
Yeah, good point. Chris, man, as always, it's good to connect with you. I appreciate you for taking time to sit down and share your thoughts and analysis on things.
Thanks for digging me out of the hole.
Oh, no problem, my friend. I love to help out fellow truth tellers, man. And so definitely you fighting a good cause that I support, and I want to help you any way I can. So that's why you can have access to the community whenever, man. So if you got something to say, just reach out to me and I'll get it out there for you. So appreciate you as always. No problem, my friend. But anyway, enjoy your day. Be blessed, be safe, and we'll connect soon.
All right, take care.